Hello, my name is Kerryath, and today we are going to talk about Demon Princes, because yesterday, in the video about 8-ish models that Games Workshop should just put out of their misery, I mentioned the Demon Prince of Nurgle as a candidate for something that could disappear off the site and I would not be at all bothered by it. And to be honest, there's been an interesting mix of agreement and people going, why that one and not the plastic Demon Prince? Because there's actually quite a few people, it turns out, who have a real issue with the plastic Demon Prince that we can see right before us right now. And to be honest, the thing is, the plastic Demon Prince, I will say, I don't think is absolutely amazing. It's okay. There is something that it does have going for it, which the older one didn't, but we are going to talk about the older one in a moment, because I think it is in fact better than this one by quite a bit, in certain ways anyway. I mean, for a start, this one, as we say, has got some stuff going for it. As you can see, we've got the power armoured version right here, and there's no weapons, there's just two fists, one of which has got a weirdly elongated, well no, they both got like a weirdly elongated finger, which I never quite understood, but there you go. But it's you know, it's Chaos Space Marine-y, except for the legs, which still don't really look all that Chaos Space Marine. It looks a bit fantasy from the waist down, unfortunately, but we have this, but it's not the only thing we have. There are other options, which the older Demon Prince didn't have. I mean, if you want wings, you can do wings. If you want a sword, you can do a sword. If you want to make one that looks like that, you absolutely can do. You don't even need the power pack. There is a fair amount in terms of being able to change this into whatever you want it to be, as evidenced by the sprues, although admittedly the selection might not be all that great, and there's still no option for a massive mace, which I think is genuinely a mistake. The thing is, it's a bit of a departure in a way, because some of it looks a bit cartoony, and the way that you kind of mix styles from 40k to fantasy looks a little weird in some respects. I mean, the almost fully armoured upper body compared to the very distinctly fantasy armoured like top of the legs, it's a weird mix, it's a weird contrast, and to be honest, the weapons don't really look particularly 40k. I mean, you know, a big demonic sword can kind of apply to both universes, but it's not quite techie, is it? It looks more fantasy than anything else. I mean, that's a very good way of showing that even though it is undoubtedly something that could be used for 40k, that sword, it's distinctly not something that used to be really a power weapon or anything. It does look quite fantasy, unfortunately. It's the same thing with the axe. Both the swords have the same issue, to be fair. Is that enough to be offset by the power armour? I don't know. Maybe a little. But the thing is, this isn't terrible, but it's also not as good as the previous incarnation of Demon Prince, in my opinion. The previous incarnation of Demon Prince was way better, and I say that as someone who absolutely hated putting his Demon Prince together. So I've grabbed a couple of different photos of the older one. Unfortunately, I didn't realise this. It was available for a while as a resin one. It was metal when I bought one, because that was in third, which is quite a long time ago. I hadn't realised it was no longer available. I would have grabbed one if I'd have known. But, regrets aside, the older one has something that the newer one does not have. Now, this is one of those occasions where I don't really know whether I can properly pinpoint what it is about this older Demon Prince that I prefer so much to the newer one. I can't really nail down why it is that I actually prefer this by quite a bit. And the thing is, I prefer it despite the fact that I experienced this in all of its metal glory, right? This particular model. So there are definite downsides to this particular Demon Prince. One of which was the fact that it was an absolutely brutal nightmare to put together. The contact points between the torso and the waist, the way it went together was weird. It was weird, and it didn't quite fit properly when I put mine together. Anyway, it just didn't sit right. It was like it had been sheared in a weird way. Trying to get the top and bottom halves to sit correctly was an absolute nightmare. A nightmare that I actually experienced twice, because it happened with this model and it happened with the Nightbringer as well. The fact that it was metal also made it heavy as hell, and almost one of the most unpleasant models to transport I think I've ever experienced. The sword, bless it, was so prone to bending that you wouldn't even believe the fact that it got from one destination to another unscathed. Like, if you opened your box and that sword was straight, that was miracle territory right there. No matter how well I secured my Demon Prince, the sword always bent. And of course, it being metal, when it bent, it really bent. And if you then repaired it, it essentially meant you had to repaint the sword every single time. Not fun. The arms didn't really fit on properly, I seem to remember. And we're going back like 15, 16 years or something at this point, I think. The backpack as well was quite the thing to get to actually, just be the way it should be. It was a pain to put together. It was a huge, heavy chunk of metal that was very prone to bits like bending or snapping. Like, I remember the fingers were quite delicate as well. Like, you could misshape those quite easily if you weren't careful. It had its downsides. It most definitely had its downsides. And I don't look forward to the idea of putting another one together. But all that being said, I still much prefer it to the current Demon Prince, by far. There are aspects to this model, there are elements to this model that just put it in a different league for me. I mean, firstly, the fact that the power armor has remained on this one. The fact that it is still power armored from, like, foot to, like, from head to toe, it's still properly 40k. The power armor might have stretched and it might have got like weird fleshy consistency in places. It might have been a bit of a job to clean up some of the detail back in the day. But the fact is, it is still armored. You don't have this weird disconnect where the top half looks like an ascended Chaos Space Marine and the bottom half looks like a demon from fantasy. It doesn't have that weird disconnect. The backpack itself, we can do a quick comparison here. So, that backpack looks okay. I don't mind it. It looks alright. But there is something to be said for, like, just the gothic, over-the-top joy of having skulls as your vents. That I really like. The fact that the power pack looks like it's been incorporated, like it's like the Demon Prince has been incorporated into it, that it's growing out, that it's been kind of taken over by flesh and bone. The fact it's got the actual spine splitting out across to these two skulls. There we go. Actually, you can see on that picture, which, by the way, for credit, was hosted at ImgEd, you can see where the backpack joins. It requires some significant green stuff work to get rid of that line just above the head there. But yeah, like, there is something so much more ominous, so much more 40k, so much more like dark and brutal about this Demon Prince than there is about the new one. For me, there's just no comparison. That looks okay. A bit cartoony. There's a bit too much like chiseled muscle going on. It doesn't look like that thing has grown. It looks like that's how it's always been. Even with the power pack, like even the extension there and like the spikes and the cables, it still doesn't look like this is something that has slowly swollen to power. This does. It does look like it has slowly swollen until some of its flesh has incorporated some of the armour. It looks like the armour is stretched and grown with it. There's like bony growths sticking out a part of it. Part of its like weapons have become incorporated into the actual Demon Prince itself. It has an intent. It has an attitude that is just so much better, so far removed from the current one. Like, that to me, it looks okay. I wouldn't say it's bad. And the fact that it's got options is nice. I mean, options are never a bad thing, let's be honest. But when it comes to attitude, when it comes to like history in a single model, that to me is superior. That looks like something that has grown and changed and shifted and become something so much more like powerful and brutal and dark than it once was. That looks like something that has swollen and grown in power. To me, that looks like it's always been like that. And it also looks too almost cocky, too happy to be in the state that it's in. I much prefer the look of something that looks furious and in pain and just ready to end you simply for being there. There is an attitude difference between the two. The new options, like the newer one, like the options are better. The fact that you have a choice between a couple of swords and an axe, the fact that you can build it with the backpack, you can build it without the backpack, you can give it wings, you can give it spikes, there's a different variety of heads. All of these things are good. Undoubtedly, because choice is never bad. This has no choice. There is no option for wings. There is no option for not having a power pack. There is no option for swapping out the sword for something else. It came with what it was. That was the whole model. You didn't get anything else. If you didn't want the kind of gauntlet that's got like the gun sticking out of it, well, tough. You'd have to file it off or green stuff it away. What you see is what you got. But what you got was a model that has so much more personality, so much more attitude, so much more presence than the current Demon Prince. It's one of those rare cases where I think a lack of choice doesn't actually matter, because the overall model is just that much better than the new one. And I'm now actually genuinely sad, having looked at the Chaos Space Marine stuff, that it's not available. Because it was available still for a while, as resin, not metal, obviously. But I hadn't realised it had disappeared. I'm assuming it went with the last update to all the Chaos stuff, when we had the Lord Discordant, the new Chaos Space Marines, the new Obliterators. I'm assuming that's when it went. And it's a pity that I didn't realise, because I think I would have picked one up. Just because we're not going to see something like this again, I don't think. If there is a new Demon Prince at any point, it will follow the same path as the current Possessed and the Greater Possessed. And I don't know. I think this will forever be one of my favourite, if not my favourite, models that Games Workshop has done. Just because it has that presence and personality that so far, I don't think anything else demon related, to do with Chaos Space Marine specifically, has really matched. It's just a really, really good model. Anyway, that was entirely brought on by a couple of comments from yesterday's video. So let me know what you think about the new one and the old one. I say new, it's not new anymore. I kept saying the new Demon Prince. It's newer. It's not as old as this. It's still not new, but you get what I mean. Comparatively speaking, it's newer than this one. But I just like this one so much more. Do you happen to really like the plastic kit? Do you think that actually this one, the older one, does look way better? Did you have one of these? Was it as much of a pain to put together for you as it was for me? Or was I just unlucky and or incompetent? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, you can click all the things. Oh, I'm streaming at the moment as well. I'm currently streaming on Twitch, streaming a bit of Rocksmith, because why not? Come over and have a drink and listen to some terrible music being played badly if you'd like. It's totally up to you. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games. If you click it, then you can buy stuff from there, and I get something for sending you there, and you save money on your 40k stuff or painting or any other of the bajillion tabletop products that they stock. It's a nice way to support the channel with no extra effort, so you can do that if you would like to do that. Thank you very much for watching. I will hopefully see you over at twitch.tv/Kiriarth, but if not, I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.